Ryan never thought his life would change because of a weird crystal thing. He was just a regular 17-year-old kid trying to get through his last year of high school. Math was hard enough without worrying about alien stuff, but there he was, sitting in Mr. Peterson's law office, staring at the strangest inheritance anyone could imagine. His grandfather had died last month, and Ryan barely knew the old man. Grandpa had always been distant, traveling for work that nobody in the family really understood. "Your grandfather left you this," Mr. Peterson said, sliding a small wooden box across the desk, along with instructions that you should open it only when you're alone. Ryan picked up the box. It was heavier than it looked, and something inside seemed to hum with energy. The crystal device inside was about the size of his phone, but it glowed with a soft blue light that made his skin tingle just looking at it. Back home in his bedroom, Ryan turned the crystal over in his hands. It felt warm, almost alive. The blue light got brighter when he touched certain spots, like it was responding to him, without really thinking about it. He pressed what looked like a button on one side. The air above his desk started to shimmer like heat waves on hot pavement. Then it tore open like someone had ripped a hole in reality itself. Through that hole stepped the most incredible person Ryan had ever seen. She was tall, way taller than anyone he knew, with skin that looked like liquid silver and eyes that glowed like melted gold. Her hair moved on its own, floating around her. Shoulders like she was underwater. She was beautiful, but also terrifying in a way that made Ryan's heart race. "What is this place?" she demanded, her voice carrying strange echoes that made his windows shake. "Where am I?" Ryan's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. My bedroom?" She looked around, taking in his posters, his messy desk, and his unmade bed. Her golden eyes narrowed with disgust. "A human child. Of course, where's the old one?" "Where is your elder?" "My grandfather? He's dead." Something changed in her expression. Not sadness, but something deeper and more complicated. "Then it has passed to you," she said quietly. "The binding." "What binding? What are you talking about?" Ryan stood up, still clutching the crystal device. "Who are you? What are you?" She straightened to her full height, which was impressive and intimidating. "I am Zara, of the Star Realm. I was a warrior and a leader before your kind captured me. And now, it seems, I belong to you." "Belong to me? That's crazy." "Nobody belongs to anybody," Zara laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Tell that to the device in your hands, human boy. Your grandfather bound me to his family line with ancient laws older than your civilization. I cannot leave. I cannot refuse. I must serve whoever holds that crystal until death releases me." Ryan looked at the device in his hands like it had turned into a snake. "This is insane. I don't want anyone to serve me. Can't you just ... go home?" "Home?" Zara's voice cracked slightly. "My home is beyond the stars in a realm you cannot imagine. I ruled over worlds, commanded fleets of ships that could cross galaxies in heartbeats. I had power that could reshape matter itself. Now I am trapped. Here, bound to serve a child who doesn't even understand what he possesses." The weight of what was happening started to sink in. Ryan sat down hard on his bed. "This isn't real. This can't be real." Zara waved her hand, and suddenly she looked almost human. Her silver skin turned pale but normal. Her glowing eyes became brown, and her floating hair settled into something that looked natural. She was still tall and still beautiful, but now she could pass for a regular person. "It is very real," she said. "And now we both must live with it." Over the next few days, Ryan tried to figure out what to do. Zara couldn't go more than a few hours away from him without feeling sick. She didn't need to eat human food, but she had to pretend to be normal when other people were around. The hardest part was school. Ryan had to bring her with him, claiming she was a foreign exchange student staying with his family. Zara hated every minute of it. She was thousands of years old and had commanded armies. But now, she had to sit through algebra class and pretend not to know things that were basic knowledge in her world. "This is torture," she whispered to him during lunch. "Your people learn so slowly. We could have colonized 3 star systems in the time it takes you to explain basic mathematics." "Yeah, well, welcome to high school," Ryan whispered back. None of us want to be here either. But there were moments when Ryan caught glimpses of who Zara really was beneath all the anger. Late at night, when she thought he was asleep, she would stand by his window and stare at the stars. Sometimes he heard her humming songs in a language that sounded like music itself. One night he couldn't help but ask, "Do you miss it? Your home?" Zara was quiet for a long time. "I miss the freedom," she finally said. "I miss having choices. I miss being able to fly between worlds and feel the cosmic winds on my face. I miss my people, though they have probably forgotten me." "By now, how long have you been trapped here?" 20 of your years. "Your grandfather found me after my ship crashed in your desert. I was injured and alone, and he promised to help me repair my vessel. Instead, he used the binding device on me while I was weak." Ryan felt sick. His own grandfather had basically kidnapped this amazing being and kept her prisoner for 20 years. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "You were not responsible for his choices," Zara said softly. "But you are responsible for what happens now." That was the problem. Ryan didn't know what to do. He couldn't figure out how to break the binding, and every day that passed felt like he was continuing his grandfather's crime. Zara tried to hide it, but he could see how much she hated being trapped. She was meant for bigger things than helping him with homework and pretending to be a normal student. The crystal device sat on his desk like a constant reminder of the impossible situation they were both stuck in. Sometimes it pulsed brighter, as if it could sense his thoughts. Ryan was starting to suspect that the device was more than just a tool. It felt alive in ways that made him uncomfortable. What made things worse was that Ryan was starting to like having Zara around. Not because she was bound to serve him, but because she was interesting and smart and unlike anyone he'd ever met. She told amazing stories about other worlds and civilizations that spanned galaxies. She could explain scientific concepts that his teachers barely understood. But every time he enjoyed her company, guilt hit him like a punch to the stomach. She was only there because she had no choice. Any friendship between them was built on a foundation of imprisonment. "I wish I could let you go," he told her one evening while they worked on his chemistry homework. "But you cannot," she replied simply. "The binding is beyond your understanding or mine. We are both trapped now, human boy. The only question is what we do with the trap we find ourselves in." Ryan didn't know the answer to that question. He just knew that every day brought new complications. And he had the feeling that their strange situation was about to get a lot more dangerous. The crystal device had been pulsing more frequently, and sometimes Zara would look up at the sky with an expression that made him nervous. Something was coming. And Ryan had the sinking feeling that neither of them was ready for what would happen next. Living with Zara was like trying to keep a lightning bolt as a pet. Everything that seemed normal to Ryan was completely foreign to her. And everything she did naturally caused chaos in his ordinary world. The first disaster happened on her third day at school. Ryan was in history class when he heard a loud crash from the science wing. He knew, even before the principal's voice came over the intercom, that Zara was involved somehow. He found her standing in the chemistry lab, surrounded by broken glass and smoking equipment. Mr. Rodriguez, the chemistry teacher, was staring at her with wide eyes. "I don't understand what happened," Mr. Rodriguez was saying to the principal. "The equipment just started sparking when she walked in, all of it at once." Ryan grabbed Zara's arm and pulled her aside. "What did you do? Ain't nothing intentional?" She whispered back, looking frustrated. "Your primitive electronics cannot handle my natural energy field. This keeps happening." And it did keep happening. Street lights flickered when she walked under them. His neighbor's car wouldn't start after she walked past it. The microwave in his kitchen had completely stopped working, and his mom was starting to ask questions. "Maybe you should stay home tomorrow," Ryan suggested that evening. "Just until we figure out how to control this." Zara's golden eyes flashed with anger. "Control? I have been controlling my abilities for weeks now. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to suppress powers that are as natural to me as breathing is to you?" She was right, and Ryan knew it. Back in her world, Zara could probably level mountains or move stars. Here she had to constantly hold back just to avoid breaking every electronic device in town. But staying home wasn't an option either. The binding meant she couldn't be more than a few hours away from him, and he had to go to school. So they kept trying to make it work, with increasingly disastrous results. The situation got worse when Ryan's best friend Tyler started asking questions. Tyler had known Ryan since kindergarten, and he could tell something was off. "Dude, your exchange student is weird," Tyler said one day after lunch. "Like really weird. She talks like she's from a history book. She knows stuff that hasn't been invented yet. And yesterday, I swear I saw her eyes glow." "You're imagining things," Ryan said, but his voice sounded fake even to himself. Am I? Because I did some research. And there's no record of any exchange student program bringing anyone to our school this year. Ryan's heart sank. Tyler was smart, and once he got suspicious about something, he didn't let it go. Things came to a head the following week during a thunderstorm. Ryan and Tyler were driving home from basketball practice when they came around a corner too fast. The rain had made the road slippery, and Tyler's car started to skid toward a tree. Time seemed to slow down. Ryan saw the tree getting closer, saw Tyler's panicked face, and knew they were about to crash. That's when Zara appeared. She materialized in the back seat like she'd teleported there, which Ryan realized she probably had. Her eyes were blazing with golden light, and her hair was floating around her head like she was underwater. "Hold on," she said. And her voice carried those strange harmonics that made the car windows vibrate. She reached forward and touched the dashboard. Suddenly, the car was surrounded by a bubble of shimmering energy. They hit the tree, but instead of crushing metal and broken glass, it bounced off like they'd hit a giant pillow. Tyler sat in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles and staring at Zara in the rear-view mirror. "What? Who? How did you? Tyler, Ryan started, but he didn't know how to finish the sentence. Zara looked at Tyler with those glowing eyes. "You will forget this happened," she said, and her voice carried a strange, hypnotic quality. "No." Ryan grabbed her arm. "Don't." "Mess with his mind? Then what do you suggest?" Zara snapped. "Let him expose us both. Let him tell the world that aliens walk among you." Tyler was looking back and forth between them like he was watching a tennis match. "Aliens, Ryan? What is she talking about? What's going on?" Ryan made a decision that would change everything. "Tyler, I need you to promise me something. Can you keep a secret? Like the biggest secret in the world? Depends on the secret. Her name is Zara, and she's not from around here." "Really? Not from around here?" Over the next hour, sitting in Tyler's car in the middle of a thunderstorm, Ryan told his best friend everything. About his grandfather, about the crystal device, about Zara being bound to serve him against her will. Tyler listened without saying a word, his eyes getting wider with every detail. "Prove it," Tyler finally said. Zara sighed and held out her hand. Light gathered in her palm, swirling and dancing like captured starlight. Then she gestured toward a fallen branch near the road. The branch rose into the air, spinning slowly, before gently settling back down. Tyler was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "This is the coolest and most terrifying thing that's ever happened to me." "Tell me about it," Ryan muttered. But having Tyler know the truth brought its own problems. Now Ryan had to worry about keeping two people safe instead of just one. And Tyler, being Tyler, had about 1,000,000 questions that neither Ryan nor Zara could answer. "So if you're this powerful warrior princess," Tyler asked Zara one day, "why don't you just break free?" "It's not that simple," Zara replied, looking tired. "The binding works on levels you cannot understand. It's not just physical. It affects my essence, my life force. The more I fight it, the weaker I become." Ryan watched her as she explained, noticing things he hadn't seen before. She was getting thinner, and there were dark circles under her eyes. The constant suppression of her abilities, combined with being trapped on a world that felt alien too, was wearing her down. "Is it killing you?" he asked quietly. Zara met his eyes, slowly. "Yes." That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. Sat by his window, holding the crystal device and trying to figure out what to do. Zara was dying. Tyler was now part of a secret that could get them all in trouble, and Ryan felt like he was drowning in responsibilities he never asked for. "You're troubled," Zara said from the doorway. She was wearing one of his mom's old robes, and her silver hair was loose around her shoulders. Wouldn't you be? She came and sat beside him. In my world, we have a saying. The storm reveals the strength of the tree. You are stronger than you know, Ryan. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm failing everyone. You, Tyler, my family. Everyone. Your grandfather kept me locked away like a secret for 20 years, Zara said softly. You brought me into your world, gave me a place at your side, trusted your closest friend with the truth. We may both be trapped, but you have shown me more kindness in weeks than he showed me in decades. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, looking out at the stars. Ryan found himself wondering which one was Zara's home, and if anyone there missed her. Something's coming, Zara said suddenly, her voice tense. What do you mean? She stood up, her body going rigid with alertness. I can feel it. Others like me. They're searching. Ryan's blood went cold. Searching for what? Zara turned to look at him, and for the first time since he'd known her, she looked truly afraid. For me, the attack came 3 days later, right in the middle of Ryan's chemistry test. He was struggling with a question about molecular bonds, when every piece of electronic equipment in the school started going crazy. Fire alarms blared, lights flickered. On and off, and computers crashed all at once. But this wasn't like the small problems Zara usually caused. This felt different, bigger, dangerous. Ryan looked over at Zara, who was sitting 2 rows away pretending to take the same test. Her face had gone completely pale, and her hands were shaking as she gripped her pencil. Everyone remained calm, Mr. Rodriguez announced, but his voice was shaky too. This appears to be some kind of electrical problem. Through the classroom window, Ryan saw something that made his heart stop. 3 figures were walking across the school parking lot, and they definitely weren't human. They moved too smoothly, too perfectly, like they were floating just above the ground. Even from a distance. Ryan could see that their skin had the same silvery shine as Zara's real appearance. Zara stood up so fast her chair fell over. We have to go. Now. Miss Zara, please sit down, Mr. Rodriguez said, but she was already moving toward Ryan. They found me, she whispered, grabbing his arm. My people, they've come to take me back. Isn't that good? Ryan asked, confused. Don't you want to go home? Zara's golden eyes met his, and he saw pure terror there. You don't understand. They're not here to rescue me. They're here to punish me. The classroom door exploded inward without anyone touching it. Students screamed and dove under their desks as 3 tall figures stepped through the doorway. The leader was male, with dark silver skin and eyes like black holes. When he spoke, his voice made the windows crack. Princess Zara of the Star Realm, he said, and the words seemed to echo from everywhere at once. You have been found guilty of abandoning your duties. You will come with us. Kexa Zara said, and Ryan had never heard her voice sound so small. I should have known they'd send you. You thought you could hide forever among these primitive creatures? Kex looked around the classroom with disgust. Living as a pet too. This human child? Ryan felt anger flare up inside him. She's not anyone's pet. Kex turned those black hole eyes on Ryan, and suddenly he couldn't breathe. It felt like invisible hands were squeezing his throat. The human speaks, Kex said with amusement. How entertaining. Leave him alone? Zara stepped forward, and suddenly, the air around her began to shimmer with energy. Your fight is with me, not with them. Our fight. Kex laughed, and the sound made the ceiling tiles rattle. There is no fight, princess. You lost the right to resist when you chose exile over duty. Ryan managed to gasp out a few words through the invisible grip on his throat. What? ... What did she do? She refused to lead our armies in the conquest of the Meridian system, one of the other aliens said. Thousands of worlds ripe for harvesting, and she chose mercy over strength. I chose peace over pointless war, Zara shot back. Those worlds had done nothing to deserve destruction. Weakness, Kex spat. The very weakness that makes you unfit to rule. The crystal device in Ryan's backpack began to pulse with heat. He could feel it getting warmer and warmer, like it was reacting to the tension in the room. Without really thinking about it, he reached for it. The moment his fingers touched the crystal, everything changed. Energy flowed through him like lightning. But instead of hurting, it felt like coming alive for the first time. He could suddenly sense things he'd never noticed before. The electrical fields of every device in the room, the heartbeats of his classmates, and most importantly, the connection between him and Zara. Impossible, Kex breathed, staring at Ryan. A human cannot channel StarTech, but Ryan wasn't just channeling it. He was amplifying it, somehow feeding power directly to Zara. Her eyes blazed with golden light as her full abilities returned for the first time in weeks. "Everyone get out," Ryan shouted to his classmates. "Now." Kids ran screaming from the classroom as Zara and the three aliens faced off. What happened next was like watching a battle between gods. Energy blasted back and forth, desks flew through. The air like toys and the very walls began to crack under the pressure. Zara moved like liquid lightning, dodging attacks that would have vaporized a normal person. But even with Ryan's power boost, she was fighting three opponents who had been hunting her specifically. They knew her fighting style, her strengths, her weaknesses. "You cannot win, Princess," Kex called out as he blasted a hole through the wall. "Surrender now, and we might let your pet human live." That's when Tyler appeared in the doorway, his eyes wide with shock at the destruction. "Ryan, what's happening?" "Get out of here," Ryan yelled, but it was too late. One of the aliens had noticed Tyler and was already moving toward him. Ryan felt something snap inside him. These beings were threatening his best friend, terrorizing his school, and trying to drag away someone he'd started to care about. The crystal device in his hands blazed with blue-white light as he poured everything he had into it. The power surge was incredible. Zara's abilities suddenly magnified beyond anything she'd shown before. She moved so fast she seemed to be in three places at once, her attacks hitting with the force of exploding stars. The battle was over in seconds. Two of the aliens were down, stunned by attacks they hadn't seen coming. Kex himself was on his knees, dark silver blood trickling from his mouth. "This isn't possible," he gasped. "No human should be able to enhance Star Realm powers." "A lot of things shouldn't be possible," Ryan said, still holding the blazing crystal. "But here we are." Kex looked up at Zara with something that might have been respect. "You have found something unexpected, Princess, but this changes nothing. More will come. The Star Council will not let this insult stand." "Let them come," Zara said, and her voice carried new confidence. "They will find me ready." Kex and his companions vanished in flashes of silver light. But their parting words hung in the air like a threat. The hunt has only just begun. Ryan dropped the crystal device and immediately felt exhausted. The power drain had been enormous. Like running a marathon and taking a final exam at the same time, he would have fallen if Tyler hadn't caught him. "Okay," Tyler said, looking around at the destroyed classroom. "I have so many questions right now." "Later," Zara said, helping Ryan to his feet. "We need to leave before more arrive." As they headed for the exit, Ryan could hear sirens in the distance. The battle had lasted only minutes, but it had felt like hours. His school was a disaster zone. There were probably news crews on the way, and somewhere out there, more alien hunters were preparing to come for them. "Where do we go now?" he asked. Zara looked up at the sky, where storm clouds were gathering, even though the weather had been clear an hour ago. "Somewhere they can't track us." "But Ryan, you need to understand. Something, what you did back there, channeling that much power through the crystal device. It's changing you. Changing me, how? I don't know. But the device isn't just binding us together anymore. It's making us into something new. Something that's never existed before." Ryan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the approaching storm. His life had been turned upside down by inheriting Zara. But now it seemed like both of them were becoming something else entirely, and somewhere in the back of his mind, he could feel it, a presence that wasn't quite him and wasn't quite her, but something that was both and neither at the same time. After the attack at school, Ryan, Zara, and Tyler had to disappear. The news was calling it a terrorist attack with unknown technology, and the FBI was asking questions nobody could answer. So they did what any teenagers on the run would do. They hid in the last place anyone would look for them. Tyler's uncle owned an old cabin up in the mountains, about 3 hours from town. It had been abandoned for years, but it still had running water and electricity. More importantly, it was far enough from civilization that if more aliens showed up, at least they wouldn't put innocent people in danger. "This is insane," Tyler said for the 100th time as they settled into the dusty cabin. "A week ago, my biggest problem was asking Jessica to prom. Now I'm hiding from alien bounty hunters in my uncle's cabin. Welcome to my world," Ryan muttered. Collapsing onto an old couch that probably hadn't been used since the 1990s, Zara stood by the window, watching the forest like she expected attackers to come pouring out of the trees at any moment. "We'll find us eventually. Kex is persistent, and the Star Council has resources you cannot imagine." "Great. So what do we do?" Tyler asked. "Figure out what's happening to me and Ryan," Zara said, turning away from the window. "The power connection. During the battle, that shouldn't have been possible." She was right. Ever since the fight at school, Ryan had been feeling different. Sometimes he could sense Zara's emotions, even when she was in another room. Other times, he'd know things he'd never learned, like the names of stars in her home, galaxy, or the proper way to calibrate a faster-than-light engine. "It's the crystal device," Zara explained as they gathered around the old kitchen table. "I've been studying it since we arrived here. It's not just a binding tool." She held up the crystal, which was now glowing with a steady blue light instead of the occasional pulses it used to give off. "This is a life form. A being that exists between dimensions, older than both our species." "Wait, what?" Tyler leaned forward. "That thing is alive, very much so. And it's been slowly connecting Ryan and me on a level deeper than either of us realized." The binding was just the beginning. Ryan felt the chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we're becoming something new, something that's never existed before. A hybrid consciousness that bridges the gap between human and star realm existence." Over the next few days, the changes became more obvious. Orion started understanding languages he'd never heard before. Zar began dreaming about his childhood memories. Sometimes they would start each other's sentences, or know what the other was thinking without speaking. "This is freaking me out," Ryan admitted one evening as they sat around a campfire outside the cabin. "I feel like I'm losing myself." "You're not losing yourself," Zara said gently. "You're becoming more than yourself." "We both are. But what if I don't want to become more? What if I just want to be a normal kid?" Tyler poked at the fire with a stick. "Dude, normal went out the window the day you inherited an alien princess." "I wasn't always a princess," Zara said quietly. "I used to be a soldier, then a general, then a leader. Each time, I had to give up who I was before to become who I needed to be." "Did you ever regret it?" Ryan asked. "Every day. What regret is a luxury you can't afford when others depend on you." Their quiet conversation was interrupted by a sound that made all three of them freeze, the distant hum of approaching aircraft. But this wasn't the whoosh of alien technology. This was the heavy thrum of human military helicopters. "They found us," Tyler breathed. Ryan grabbed the crystal device, feeling its warmth pulse through his fingers. "Who, the aliens or the government? Does it matter?" Zara stood up, her form already beginning to shimmer as she prepared to change back to her true appearance. "Either way, we run." But as the helicopters got closer, Ryan made a decision that surprised even himself. "No, we don't run." "Any more, Ryan? What are you doing?" Tyler grabbed his arm. "I'm tired of being hunted. I'm tired of hiding. And I'm tired of pretending this isn't happening." Ryan held up the crystal device, which was now blazing with light. "If they want to find us, let them find us. But they're going to find us together." Zara stared at him. "Ryan, you don't understand what you're suggesting." "I understand perfectly. This thing is changing us whether we want it to or not. Maybe it's time we stopped fighting it and started controlling it." The helicopters circled overhead, their searchlights cutting through the darkness. A voice boomed down through a loudspeaker. "This is Agent Cross, with the Department of Extraordinary Phenomena. We know you're down there. Come out with your hands visible." "Extraordinary phenomena?" Tyler whispered. "That's a real thing?" Apparently, Ryan said. He took Zara's hand, feeling the familiar surge of energy that happened whenever they touched. "Now, you ready for this?" Zara squeezed his hand. "No, but I'm ready to face it with you." They walked out into the clearing together, the crystal device blazing between their clasped hands. The helicopters touched down, and armed agents poured out. But they stopped when they saw the light show. Agent Cross was a stern-looking woman in a black suit who walked toward them like she'd done this 1,000 times before. Ryan Mitchell. And the entity known as Zara. You've caused quite a stir. We didn't ask for any of this, Ryan said. No, but you have it anyway. And now we need to talk about what happens next. Let me guess, Zara said, her voice carrying its otherworldly harmonics. You want to study me? Lock me up. Use me as a weapon. Agent Cross shook her head. Actually, we want to offer you a choice. Both of you. She gestured, and more helicopters appeared on the horizon. But these weren't government aircraft. They were sleek, silver ships that moved without sound. Your people are coming, Agent, Cross said to Zara. A full Star Council fleet will be here within hours. They're not coming to negotiate. Ryan felt his heart sink. They're coming to take her back. Worse, they're coming to destroy this entire planet to make sure the contamination doesn't spread. Apparently, the idea of human-alien cooperation terrifies them. Zara went very still. They would commit genocide to maintain their isolation. Star Council has decided that Earth represents a threat to their way of life. One human-enhancing alien powers is an anomaly. But if it becomes widespread, double quotes Agent Cross shrugged. They can't allow that. Ryan felt the crystal device growing. Warm in his hands, around them the air began to shimmer with energy as his emotions spiked. So what's the choice you're offering? He asked. Agent Cross looked between them, her expression serious. Complete the transformation. Let the crystal device finish what it started. Become something powerful enough to stand between two worlds. And broker a peace. And if we refuse, then we all die when the Star Council arrives. Earth gets destroyed, Zara gets executed for treason. And the universe loses any chance of seeing what human and alien cooperation could achieve. Ryan looked at Zara, seeing his own fear reflected in her golden eyes. The transformation would mean giving up everything they were to become something entirely new. There would be no going back. How do we know it will work? Zara asked. You? Don't, Agent Cross admitted. But right now, it's the only chance any of us have. Above them, the sky began to flicker with silver lights as the Star Council fleet dropped out of hyperspace. They were out of time. Ryan turned to Zara, the crystal device blazing between them. What do you think? She smiled. And for the first time since he'd known her, it was a smile without any sadness in it. I think we've been becoming something. New since the day we met, maybe it's time we finish the job. Hand in hand, they raised the crystal device toward the approaching fleet, ready to either save two worlds or die trying. The transformation was like being torn apart and rebuilt at the speed of light. Ryan felt every atom in his body, dissolving and reforming as the crystal device blazed with energy beyond anything he'd ever imagined. Beside him, Zara was going through the same process, her silver skin glowing like a star as they became something that had never existed before. The pain lasted only seconds, but those seconds felt like lifetimes. When it was over, Ryan found himself different. He was still himself, but also more than himself. He could feel Zara's consciousness beside his own, not overwhelming him, but joining with him in perfect harmony. They stood up together, moving, as one person in two bodies. When Ryan looked at his hands, they flickered between human flesh and silver light. When Zara spoke, her voice carried both alien harmonics and human warmth. We are still ourselves, she said, wonder in her voice. But we are also something new. Agent Cross and her team were staring at them with mixtures of fear and amazement. Above them, the Star Council fleet had stopped moving, as if they too were trying to understand what they were seeing. How do you feel? Agent Cross asked carefully. Ryan answered without thinking, his voice carrying new depths. Complete. Like, we were always meant to be this way. The first Star Council ship landed in the clearing, silver and beautiful and completely silent. Out stepped a figure that made even Zara gasp, tall and elegant, with white silver skin and eyes like galaxies. Prince Dex. Zara breathed. My brother. The prince looked at her with an expression Ryan couldn't read. Sister, you have changed. So, have you? Zara replied. You look older. Sadder. 20 years of believing you were dead will do that. Prince Dex glanced at Ryan, then at the government agents surrounding them. Is this the human who bound you? This is Ryan, Zara said simply. My partner, my choice, your choice. The prince's galaxy eyes widened. The reports said you were enslaved. Ryan stepped forward, feeling Zara's strength flowing through him. She was bound against her will. But we chose to become something more. Impossible. Humans cannot merge with Star Realm consciousness. A lot of impossible things have been happening lately, Ryan said. He held up his hand and light danced. Across his palm, not quite human, not quite alien, but something entirely new. Maybe it's time to stop thinking about what's impossible and start thinking about what's possible. More ships were landing now, filling the clearing with Star Council soldiers. But Prince Dex held up a hand, stopping them from advancing. Show me, he said simply. Ryan and Zara exchanged a glance, communicating without words in the way they were still getting used to. Then they rose into the air together, their combined consciousness lifting them without effort. Above the clearing, they began to demonstrate what they had become. Ryan's human creativity merged with Zara's alien abilities to create something. Beautiful patterns of light that told the story of both their worlds, showing the prince what Earth could offer and what the Star Realm could gain. Your people have knowledge we need, Zara's voice carried across the clearing, speaking to her brother and the assembled soldiers. Medicine that could cure diseases we've fought for centuries. Art that could expand our understanding of beauty. Sciences that approach problems from angles we've never considered. And your people have technologies that could solve our greatest problems, Ryan added, his voice harmonizing with hers. Clean energy, space travel, healing techniques that could save millions of lives. Prince Dex watched their display in silence. When they landed, his expression had changed from suspicion to something that might have been hope.
The Star Council.
We'll never accept this, he said finally. Mixing with other species goes against everything we believe, does it? Zara asked. Or does it go against everything we've been told to believe? Agent Cross stepped forward. Your Highness, if I may. We've been studying the artifacts left by your grandfather's research. The binding device isn't the only technology that suggests cooperation between species. There are records of other civilizations that thrived through partnership rather than conquest. Lies, one of the Star Council soldiers spat. We are the strongest species in the galaxy because we remain pure. Are you? Ryan asked. Because from where I'm standing, pure looks an awful lot like alone. The soldier moved toward Ryan aggressively, but stopped when Prince Dex raised his hand again. Tell me about your world, the prince said to Ryan. What would you offer the Star Realm? For the next hour, as the sun began to rise over the mountains, Ryan and Zara told Prince Dex about Earth. Not just the technology or the resources, but the people. They talked about human creativity, about how they solve problems through cooperation instead of domination. They talked about art and music and the stubborn human refusal to give up hope even in the darkest times. And what would you want from us in return? Prince Dex asked. Knowledge, Agent Cross answered. Medicine, a technology that could help us heal our planet and explore the stars. But most importantly, friendship. Partnership. The Star Council would never agree to treat humans as equals. Then maybe it's time for new leadership, Zara said quietly. Prince Dex stared at his sister. You're talking about revolution? I'm talking about evolution. The Star Realm has been stagnant for thousands of years because we've been afraid to change. Look at what Ryan and I have become together. Imagine what our people could become if they stopped being afraid of what they might learn from others. Tyla, who had been quietly watching this historic conversation, suddenly spoke up. You know what's crazy? A month ago, Ryan was worried about passing chemistry. Now he's negotiating the future of two worlds. Everyone turned to look at him, and Tyler blushed. Sorry, that seemed important somehow. But Ryan was smiling. It is important. That's exactly the point. None of us chose this. Zara didn't choose to be captured. I didn't choose to inherit a binding device. You didn't choose to get pulled into an intergalactic crisis. But we all chose what to do with the situation we found ourselves in. We chose cooperation over conflict, Zara added. Understanding over fear. Prince Dex was quiet for a long time, looking up at the Star Council fleet hanging in the morning sky. Finally, he spoke. The Star Council sent me here to bring you back for execution and to destroy this world as an example to others. But I see now that would be ... wasteful. What will you tell them? Agent Cross asked. The truth. That my sister has found something remarkable here. Something that could benefit both our peoples. He looked at Ryan and Zara, who were still glowing faintly with combined energy. I will propose a new path. Cultural exchange instead of conquest. Partnership instead of domination. And if they refuse? Prince Dex smiled, and for the first time, Ryan could see the family resemblance between him and Zara. Then they will learn that the royal family has also evolved. Over the following months, everything changed. The Star Council, faced with a united front from Prince Dex and the evidence of what human-alien cooperation could achieve, agreed to a historic treaty. Earth became the first world to join the Star Realm as an equal partner rather than a conquered territory. Ryan and Zara became the first ambassadors between the two worlds, their unique nature allowing them to bridge gaps that had seemed impossible to cross. Tyler became the first human exchange student to study on a Star Realm world. While alien students began attending Earth universities, the changes weren't always easy. There were people on both sides who resisted the new partnership, who wanted to maintain the old ways of separation and suspicion. But slowly, steadily, both worlds began to transform, standing on the observation deck of the new Earth Star Realm Embassy. Ryan and Zara watched human and alien children playing together in the gardens below. They were still learning how to be what they had become, still discovering new abilities and new ways of existing. But they had found something neither of them had expected when this all began. They had found home, not in a place, but in each other and in the new world they were building together. Do you ever miss it? Ryan asked. Being just human? Being just alien? Zara smiled, her hand finding his. How can you miss something when you've become everything you were meant to be? Below them, the children's laughter echoed across two worlds, carrying the promise of a future neither species could have imagined alone.